already did.
Yeah, I already did that, but see, this is kind of, I do another intro. So I'm with Tom Tovares right now, and we're going to be talking about 6559 Caminito Blythfield, which is the property under question over at Windermere. We're going to cover a little bit of the intricacies of the foundation repair, and Tom's going to highlight some of the critical quality and performance issues. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom, and then we're going to wrap up about risk or danger at the end of the project or in resale, what you got to look for and things like that. So here's Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
Hi, how you doing? My name's Tom Tovares. I'm with T.E. Tovares Concrete. I've been doing concrete work for about 34 years. My background is I was union for a long time, and all that I did was bridges and freeway spreads and prisons, all superstructure concrete, basically. Now I've turned that into in the residential arena, and I do mostly foundation repairs and mostly caisson and grade beam repairs, like what's needed for this property. From what I saw, I think that anything other than a caisson and grade beam repair would be inadequate, in my opinion. There are other methods. There's pin piles, there's liquid concrete jacking, there's different techniques, but I don't believe in any of those techniques. I do what I believe in, which is drilling holes, filling them with steel and concrete, and basically going through the fill, penetrating into formation, basically putting the house up on stilts, and it will never ever move after that. So I have done a lot of foundation repairs in that area, within a 1 mile radius, at least 35 houses in the last 10 years that were similar repairs, meaning caisson and grade beam. So anyway, as far as cost with something like this, based on my experience with jobs similar to this, the number of caissons that I see that are needed, it's going to be in the range of 75 to 100,000 minimum, depending on the depth of the caissons. That's figuring a 20-foot depth. If they go any more than that, it's going to be more than 100,000. So,
dollars, we're talking.
Yes.
Right.
Dollars.
Yeah, dollars.
So until a soils investigation is done and we find out what those depths are, and there's an actual design for repair, it's going to be hard to marry any certain number until I can quantify it based on depths that I can count on through a soils investigation.
So roughly, Tom, how many caissons and the average depth do you usually encounter with this type of work?
Well, we want to put the caissons no further than 15 feet apart, and the caissons go in first after we cast the caissons. Then we undermine the existing foundation. We leave steel sticking out of the tops of the caissons. We dowel into the existing foundation and tie it all together. Basically put a skirt around the whole entire existing foundation that's tied into these stilts that go down into formation through the fill that's there, which is what causes this.
Right.
That whole area was all canyons at one time, and some developer came through and filled in these canyons and built streets and houses. So what's really typical in that area, I mean, you could have the front of the house on 5 feet of cut, and 60 feet away at the back of the house it's on 80 feet of fill, and that is not an exaggeration.
Well, it was a golf course actually originally, right?
Yeah.
So when they filled it all in, how else would they really build on there? So they did, a lot of them do compacted fill, but it's never been proven to really be that rigid over time. And if you get any type of erosion or moisture problems or anything like that, right, you can get into these problems. Are there any other causes?
Well, the problem is being on compacted fill is not an issue if it's done by today's standards.
Oh, gotcha.
But when they did that, then the standards aren't what they are today.
Right.
And they weren't monitored as well either. So by today's standards, if that project was filled today, there's no way that it would have sank. It's because of the fill methods that they used when they did it. So what our method overrides is any fill. Basically, When I'm done, that house could be hollow underneath it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be in Galveston, Texas, overlooking the water or in the water for that matter, and it'd be on rigid stilts, in other words.
Well, yeah, they'd have to be pretty deep at that point, but yes.
Right.
So anyway, I do a lot of these, and people call me all the time and say, hey, can you come and give us a price? And I say, do you have an engineer's report? And typically they say no, because they want numbers to negotiate their price for purchasing these things. I tell them, look, get an engineer's report. Let's find out exactly what's going on, and I can give you an exact number, because one contractor will come in and tell you to mow the house down and start over again. Another guy will tell you to put a little drywall mud around the cracks, off of the doors and the windows that occur from the settlement of the house. So a contractor's opinion as far as what should happen with the repair and how many caissons and the depths is worthless, in my opinion. I go always off of an engineer's report. But here's the thing, it's money well spent, because when you if you were ever to go to sell the house, you're never in that position that the buyer right now is in. It's done right, there's an engineer's report, there's a permit, there's a letter from the engineer that it was completed as per his standards, and if somebody wants to live in that area, and there's a house that's been repaired right with all the documentation, and there's one down the street that isn't, I mean, which one are you going to buy? But if the repair is done right, and if all the documentation is done right, nobody will ever have to worry about it again.
Right, and then the time frame, Tom, from the time you get the engineer's report and the time you start your work till it's completed and signed off, roughly?
Another, I don't know how long all of that will, all of to the point of getting a permit could take a couple months.
Okay.
From like right now, if they signed up an engineer today and he was done in 3 weeks, it would still have to go through the city. So just say 2 months for that process.
Okay.
And realistically, and then from the time I have a permit in my hand and I have already given them a number for the repair, it would take me approximately 4 weeks. And it would take less than that, but a project like this, there's so little access, we have to use specialty drill rigs. It's not like you can back in a truck-mounted drill rig and pop holes in the ground. They're tight access machines that are expensive, but they're built exactly for these situations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little slower drilling process, and that probably adds 2 weeks to my whole deal.
Right. So from permitting, from the very beginning through permitting through completion, we're talking 3-4 months probably.
I would allow 4 months.
Okay, 4 months to be safe.
Right.
And then once that's completed, then the other cosmetic and structural fixes can be done to the house.
Right. All the drywall stuff, any roofing, any windows, doors, floor coverings, all that can happen after I'm gone. But I don't know to what extent. I don't know if they're doing cabinets. I don't know what all they're doing.
Right.
If they're keeping the appliances, if they're keeping the cabinets, if they're keeping most of it, they're just dressing up what's there. I would imagine that could be done in a couple months.
Right. Okay, Tom. Well, listen, it's been great talking to you and about this specific project. We'll get this over to the parties, the interested parties, and then get back to you as far as where this is going to go. And we really appreciate your volunteering your time here at the job site to go over this. Thanks again.
No problem. Thank you.
All right.